Hello everyone, welcome to the Euro Trade. Let's just get the background music going. That should be right. Okay, today I'm looking at the massive copper move that we've had overnight. Of course, I slept through it. I've been trying to trade Asia more, but obviously I have to be up for the stream, so it started to affect me, and then I was like, you know what, I'm just gonna sleep. And yeah, so I wake up this morning and it's gone crazy. So is it the copper's turn to go a little nuts? Quite possibly. So I'm wearing my copper jacket, of course. And now whenever there is a huge outlier day like this, one thing to note of is to be very careful how you approach it. So I want to sniff things out on a combine just to do some sort of punty trades to see whether the stops are feeling comfortable, whether I need to increase the stops, whether I need to go to just micros and not even look at the mini contract. But before we begin, if you are here for the first time and you stumbled onto this stream by some accident, I'm Marcus Stalker D, aka Deeyana Angelo. I've been trading for 19 years and I've been a prop trader since 2013, focusing mainly on the commodities and energies markets, mainly precious and base metals, as well as natural gas, crude oil, RBOB, which is gasoline futures, and also heating oil as well, which is a bit of an obscure market, but I quite like it. It's low liquidity because I feel that people who are trading heating oil have to be in it. It's not particularly speculative, but it still moves very, very nicely. All right, so what is the plan for today? Well, first thing is I want to wait to see which side of the initial balance they're actually going to pop. At this point, I'm seeing the increase, so just looking at the stats and how things are playing out, I'm looking at an increase of the initial balance size for London by about, let's have a look. So today we have 114, the normal one is, let's say about, 67 or so. So yeah, we're looking at a 1.7 increase on the initial balance size. So if I now want to modify the stops, let's have a look. All right, so the stop size could be, it might need an increase to 76.5, and copper is on the full mini is pretty expensive. So that would mean I would probably need to go to micros. So yeah. Which would put me at about 4.6 micros. So let's just go to 4, because, you know, we have bigger moves, then you don't need too much size. So rather than rounding off to 5, we go down to 4. Yeah, that could be something to consider. But yeah, like I said, first we need to wait to see which side of the initial balance they want to take this. Right now, that is an unknown, and all the levels that I had, they are way down. So I had ADR high at 609.19, so definitely an outlier day. Put it in round numbers because my platform takes every single price point. And the traversal back down is actually somewhere near 625 level, which is it was a mega call wall. I did mention 625 to the upside. We've gone a little bit over that, and now the new area is 630. I have another level at 635, but that's weak. So if we ever start to go above that, I don't really expect 635 to give much resistance at all. And if we do start running, the next stopping point would be 640 and then 650, with the 650 being the big boy there. So that could be some hedging if we ever manage to crawl all the way back up there. Value areas, no use today. Why? Because they're so far down. So one other thing that we may want to see at some point is how the volume profile on the day is behaving. Are they building volume? Are they managing to go into like more of a thinner profile, which usually leads to extended, nice, smooth movement, or just quick movement that runs through some prices? But for now, they're just in limbo mode, so we'll see where they want to take it. Nothing is done yet, so there is absolutely no point trying to figure out which side of the initial balance they will do this, so we need to stay objective. And obviously with the increase of the volatility, we need to go down. So do I have 85, so maybe let me maybe modify one of these to be a little higher. So let's just go slightly over 2R, and then that's going to become something that I'm going to be looking for. So how does the 76 tick stop feel to me? That, you know, I don't really want to be emotionally dysregulated. Is it comfortable? Is it not comfortable? Does it need an increase? Is it too big? You know, because sometimes you can have these days where it just pops and then it just stops. And then, you know, you go back to the volatility that you had before. But yeah, so certainly interesting. Hilariously, Gamma Flip is all the way down at 580. So it's like, where's the Gamma? So technically this is all positive Gamma. But, you know, if you look at how they behaved, it's not like all over the place. It was actually a pretty smooth movement. Though the positive Gamma doesn't tell you of the direction. It simply tells you that the movement will be smoother, so not crazy flying all over the place, which is a negative Gamma condition, and that at some point some larger areas of open interest in the options chain will be acting as a hedge. Now, from what I can tell, the hedge was actually at 635. I know we overshot it a bit, but that is perfectly normal in extended volatility. However, this was the level when they decided to stop. But it's a weak level, so it's not like it's a huge, you know, huge level. There is also 630, so just under here. There was a pretty large level, but so far they are, so that was the mega call wall. And this one is weak. So the implications between these two is that this one should hold if we are going to go higher. This one should definitely break. Maybe some speed bumps along the way, but really not, shouldn't pose too much of a problem if they start to run it. If the initial balance extends downwards, the plan would be to wait for at least a retest of the initial balance somewhere, and then to take a trade that I like to call, or the playbook that I like to call, weakness inside IB, aka Weeb. The Weeb setup. You're basically looking for a supply area to be created, and then you're looking for a retest of the market shift point, which I call the conterminus line. Xian D, any silver analysis? Yeah, I can give you silver levels. I think that the silver is getting a little more muted now. Finally, so we had the implied volatility yesterday at 118. Today that's fallen to 90. Okay. I do feel that silver is just not a suitable product right now for prop. So be very careful. It will blow, like, unless you have an account that you've been building up for a few months and you have, like, you know, 30, 40, 50 grand in it, maybe you might be able to trade it, but just be very mindful that this was just me doing some research, but just be very mindful that silver is not a true micro. It is $5 a pop. They call that a micro. And just to put that into perspective, platinum, the full contract, is also $5. So it's like, how is this a micro? Obviously different size contracts under the hood, but still, it's you know, it's a very big big risk in silver now, because it moves over 1,000 ticks per day. So until that kind of chills, I'm also chilling. I'm not going to be trading silver and blowing up accounts. So, and even I would blow up an account, because you just don't have enough space, right? Not enough risk of ruin to actually absorb whatever nonsense silver is doing. So let's have a look at silver levels. The first one is looking at the gamma flip right at 117. 120 was the stopping point, so this was interesting that 510 got reached. That was this is my projected level for a median average extension during the Tokyo range, so I just popped in a line to see how it behaved, and it went to the tick and then came back right at Tokyo close. That's an interesting tidbit. But anyways, 120 from the options chain is a zone, so it's not just a singular price point. I mean, it can be, but for the most part, in heavy volatility, this would be something to be mindful of. Now, to the upside, I have all weak levels. Really, something that is stronger would be 125. Yeah, 125. So they start to run. They might do a little bit of a hedge around 125. Am I glad that I bought some silver bars? That's all I'm gonna say. And it was like a big pullback on the day. It was 71.50 the price. So I said I bought some more silver bars because I had some from like 45, and then on this big pullback I was like, you know what, I'm just gonna buy that. So that's going pretty well. Building up that retirement pot, right? Okay, so this is moderate coal. It's not like, you know, massive, but it could be a stopping point. ADR is in between that, so ADR still bizarrely within the day's range nicely. 122.420. So let's use this. Smack in the middle between those two. Don't know what this is. Don't know what this is. I'm gonna get rid of that. So was this 5 o'clock? No. So the Asia high was actually just here. So for now, we've had the classic run above Asia high, hit the mega coal wall, then reverse. So that setup is something that if I'm awake, I try and do. And in fact, yesterday in copper, I was trying to do the same, but it didn't work yesterday, FOMC day, right? So that's all right. And the low, a bit muted. I mean, this is not, out of all of the products, I mean, I think copper is the crazy one. And silver did barely anything, really. This is a very small Asia range comparative to the kind of ranges we've been doing. It's still 800 ticks, but you know, it's been doing like 2,000 ticks, 5,000. It's like totally insanity. So yeah, silver might be back on my radar if we can maintain the slightly smaller volatility. Like if we get back down to about 60% volatility, implied volatility, yeah, I will put it back on the map. But at 90%, that's still a little too high. Although I may be able to use a stop that is like 120 ticks rather than 220. That just about becomes palatable. But we will see. And then to the downside, 112 is like weak. Yeah, we just have weak levels to the downside. If this starts to melt to the lower part of the picture. Yeah, I don't really have anything past 110. Maybe 105, but today they seem to have disappeared as well post FMC. So that needs to develop. So maybe into the next week we can find some levels to the downside where this thing might stop. But I don't have an obvious target. So let's use the value areas for COMEX and the ADR, maybe even for London, right? So London value is lower than COMEX. London value is sitting just under 114. So let's just put a line. So ballpark, somewhere here. Why is this important? Because if we're opening relatively close to the value, the expectation is that it's going to touch the value high, maybe chop around a bit and then reverse and bounce higher. So it gives you context. Asia low and London value high are pretty close together. And COMEX, even closer. COMEX is actually 115030. So maybe I can, because you know, you want to have these levels for later on. So let's just go COMEX value high as a visual cue. What did I say? 115030. Okay. Yeah, let's put this in the middle. Then ADR low in the middle of the area, value area, 113360. Don't have a marker for that. So those are your big levels, right? I mean, maybe the weaker areas here at 122, because they're so close to this ADR high, maybe they will be hedging areas. All right, copper is extending to the downside. It's trying to anyways. We're gonna look at gold. Did I do the gold analysis? All right, I didn't do. Just trying to. Oh yeah, I did do it. Okay. Apparently, I did it. Okay. And where are we in regards to today's volatility in gold? Let's have a look so we can compare things. God, I can't sing in the morning, Jesus. 31.9, okay. It's a little bit higher than the previous day. So some panic, slight panic in gold. So let's save that. and go into the third layout. So gold rolled finally into the April contract on Topstep. I think maybe JD gave them a poke with a stick or something, I don't know, but yeah, they managed to roll. And we're trying to figure out how we can be a little bit more, a little quicker with rolling things. All right, so 5,600 was the big mega call wall that's actually been there since the start of this week, or since the rollover. What am I doing here? So mega call wall, mega call wall. Gamma flip and a moderate area is 5,500. Now remember, if you're wondering how do I get these prices, because I've been getting a lot of people asking me that. I crunch my own data, especially on outlier days where we kind of lose the end of day levels on Men-through-Q. So I found that for commodities in particular, it's very difficult to source out a service that does this for commodities markets. So, you know, you have to do some heavy lifting. And I know some people have said that they use AI, because that's what I kind of use. I mean, I have my own code and stuff, but when it comes to actual prompts and creating like config strings and stuff, I do use AI to just kind of spew out the result. It's much better. But you have to like keep tabs on it. You can't just let it do whatever, because it does stupid things and it doesn't quite know what to do. So I do monitor how it's creating the code and what it's actually doing, and then if I see that it's doing something wrong, I will stop it and then explain it what it should be doing. But yeah, so with AI, it's not just the open interest data, so it's not just the bar chart on the first one, it's also volatility in Greeks, and then there's a weighted calculation where you're looking at open interest and implied volatility per strike, not just, you know, overall. So there's a bit more heavy lifting there to do. This is why APIs are pretty nifty, because they can just ping the data, and you know, I use Cursor AI because you can use multiple contextual files, and then it looks at the whole project, which is not something you will get on just normal web-based chat GPT. It's just going to use one file, then it's going to forget, and then it's going to forget again, and it just won't use multiple files. So as soon as you give it another file, it'll be like, I don't know what we're doing right now. It's almost like AI suffers from short-term memory loss. But Cursor was designed for like big projects that have multiple files in them. So contextually, it can kind of ping the different files in the architecture and then see how they all work together. That's kind of what you need for trading. So I wish it was simpler than that, but it isn't. And you know me, I'm ballpark like just an okay coder. I would never like work as a coder. Because I'm very messy, like my code is pretty messy, so it does the job, but it wouldn't, like only I can read it. I mean, people can have a look at it, and I think they might be able to figure out what I'm trying to do, but yeah, it's just messy. I'm a messy coder. Let's put it that way. Now, to the downside, like I said, we have that 1-1. Sorry. Looking at the wrong chart. 5,500 as the gamma flip. So if we start to go below 5,500 and we sustain below it, which is a bigger issue, then we may see some crazier price action and a bit of a meltdown towards, and again, nothing too strong to the downside. So we have moderate calls sitting at 5,400, moderate calls and weak calls between 5,300 and 5,250. So maybe that will be the chop zone if we ever get back down there. And then I didn't pull any data sub that, so maybe I should do the full option chain rather than just nearby strikes. So 5,300. And again, it may not be reached today. It might be reached tomorrow. So the moderate call wall. Chop zone. So why? Why do I say it's a chop zone? Because the very next level is not very far. So visually, if you look at how far away this level is, like it's significant enough to be picked up on the basis of the weighing calculations that I do. But it's a weak call wall. And very close together. So what's going to happen? If we do reach that, we could go into it, bounce, then keep going higher. But it could also go into it, then we just get stuck. And we keep pinging between these two areas. So this would be a no trade zone for me. Or if I do trade, it would have to be like amazing entries based on like ranges and stuff. So maybe looking for liquidity sweeps and trying to look at something like 100 tick chart to get a really, really early entry. And that is a can of worms. But yeah, those are your silver, gold, and copper levels. I'm personally more interested in copper today because I still think that it's not as crazy as the other two. If I measure some of these candles that look big, yeah, it's 100. Not too bad. And then gold, this bigger one. I mean, this is still 600 ticks. That's insane. And these ones that look small, they're 330 ticks. Silver, let's have a look. Yeah, again, 240 tick candles. So yeah, I'm going to stick to copper today. I will be on fast markets, I think. Yeah, it's the 29th. So you will see me there. I'm going to be popping in. Yeah, going to be popping in sometime during the post-NY cut. And then we'll see if I can find an XFA trade today. And in the meantime, I want to try a few positions ahead of that just to get a feel for this new world order where all the metals are going absolutely bonkers, and to see how copper feels to me when I'm in a trade. This is where removing all P&L based references helps, because you're just looking at the ticks, the amount of ticks, how does the price action feel to you? Is it smoother? Is it, crazy? Is it causing you to get the jitters? Or are you just perfectly calm in a trade and fine to hold it for as long as it needs to be held? I find that silver, it gets a little bit jittery for me. Like I can still, I had one trade in silver yesterday where I felt okay, but most of the time, especially if this happens, it's very painful. And it can happen. Chop can definitely happen. So this was a hilariously muted Asia session last night. Literally didn't do anything. It's crazy. Now I'm gonna also mark the Asia high and low on gold. Just to have the extra reference for any liquidity sweeps that they might want to be doing. Okay, so the entire range was established in the first couple of hours of blowbacks, and then just realized that my text is the wrong color. just change that, because it bothers me when I'm trying to visually look at things and it's like that's not Asia. What's going on? You know, in the heat of the moment, you want to make the chart as easy to read for you as possible. And to me, this is just a way to not get confused between whether it's like an Asia high or whether it's a cold wall or what. Might seem trivial, but you know, when you're trying to make decisions that are very quick, it can make a lot of difference. Now, what do we have to the downside in copper? Because that is also important. So 610 is a moderate call wall. Now 6 evens remains. It remains a big magnetic pull if we ever go into a big pullback. Now this move up is weak structure. So typically, if you see what happened with what happened after Powell was finished speaking, right? So it had this run, which now looks trivial, but actually it was a pretty good run up of, well, at the very top it was 200 ticks, and now it just looks, it's small. It was small. And then as soon as Asia started, they attempted to fade it, obviously ran into some bigger single prints here, and then they just went whoosh. Now this is also a weak structure. Why? Because the volume, if I put volume on, the volume is low. See that? So if we do start to go lower, there's a very good chance that we get down to at least sort of 612 area. That would be like my loose target, 612. So former ADR high. Former ADR high. This one is not relevant. The new ADR low, because what happens with my indicators, when you've hit the ADR high, it then stays static because it was the first one to get exhausted. That's how you can then figure out whether you're in a normal day or an outlier day. But the lower part is still moving up, and that one is now upside down, flipped to 625. Now, if this goes lower than 625, I would then look for a pullback to definitely begin. And then we have 612 is a loose stopping point. There's not much in the options, it's just like a target. 610 is the one, but I don't like to push it to like the final few ticks. You just want to take your profits ahead of some of these big areas. Right, let me have a look at chat. I've been like all engrossed in charts and stuff. Orchard says, loving the analysis. Thanks, Coach D. You're very welcome. Trader Naman, do you have any playlists that you recommend for learning how you trade? I have an entire course, man. Like, I've been teaching people. I kind of fell into that. It wasn't like some big calculated decision where I was like, I'm gonna make a course. It was like I was working as a prop trader. People were asking me, hey, how did you enter that trade? And it's just what happens, you know. You start to see some success and people are like, hey D, can you explain it to me? So I started explaining it out of like just goodness or to helping colleagues around me and stuff. So at one point I had like 12 people around my screen and I was explaining the setups and how I look at the market, and then I was like, yeah, you know, I match the time of day and the statistical averages, and then I look at the profile and they're like, okay, interesting. And then that turned into me just constantly, like absolutely constantly doing the either the calls, or back then it was Skype chats. So now it's kind of Discord, but you know, we're talking a number of years ago. And eventually I decided that it was chewing up all of my time. There was a distinct moment where I went to dinner with my husband and we're sitting there, you know, we were in Gaucho's, which is a steakhouse, and I'm on my phone, like, looking at the charts and answering. So I just looked over the table and my husband was like, what are you doing, Dee? So I decided to take that online, right? So I was like, you know what? I'm gonna like put up videos on a small website. And then around about that time, YouTube kicked up in the kind of video department, which was really terrible before then. This was like 2015. So I was like, you know what? I'm just gonna put like this video that I have on my website, and it's costing me an arm and a leg to run because it wasn't as easy to integrate videos back in like 2013, 2014. You had to like buy a separate server. That it was just like complete nightmare. So I'm like, yeah, I'm gonna put it up on YouTube, and then suddenly I had 30,000 people watching what I thought was an obscure supply and demand video. And I have like big purple hair and everything. Because I was young and still doing session work every so often. But yeah, and then it wasn't until sort of 3-4 years later that I decided to make my legacy the whole thing, what I'm doing, how I'm seeing the markets, how I'm analyzing it. So I wanted that to be the legacy. I have no human children, so instead of imparting my unrealized ambitions onto human children, I have the course. That is quite beneficial to most people, and but look, it's not for everyone. Unfortunately, it's a little bit difficult to grasp concepts if you're completely new, right? So if you're super novice, I'm gonna say that you're gonna get lost, right? But if you are, you know, if you have 2-3 years under your belt, you have a decent understanding, but you're still sort of struggling, or you just want to deepen your, like I've had many traders who have already gotten payouts, but they came to me because they're like, listen, I think I need help, like I'm doing well, but it would be nice to actually get some additional hand-holding and help and all of that. So yeah, there's also many courses on Udemy that you can look for. Let me just let the Cavalier out because, and they're my courses, by the way. Anyways, let me let the Cavalier out because there's a bit of a scramble going on outside the door. Be back in a sec. Right, we're back, kids. So yeah, the questions like that, do you have any playlists that you can it's exactly the reason why we do have the mega course, the pro dev, that tackles, like I literally pour my soul out in there. It's like, it's also CPD certified, so that's, I don't know whether there is another trading course that is CPD certified. So, you know, that's something that I wanted to seek, because I know that when I had my level 4 RDR qualification, I had to do like 15 hours of CPD every year, and it was like so annoying. Luckily, Series 3 doesn't come with that, but it does come with an expiration date of 2 years. So if you want to maintain the qualification, you have to like keep doing it, or become like an IB or something, I don't know, but I'm not interested in that. All right, or maybe become a CTA, also not interested in that, because the admin for becoming a CTA is mind-bogglingly, hilariously difficult. They will like audit you every year, just randomly. And there's like a whole bunch of stuff that I just don't like on the admin side. You know, I don't do my own taxes, but I do my own VAT. That's enough. Every 3 months I have to do that, and to be honest, it's the worst day of my life. Dealing with expenses, yes. Terrible. All right, so we are kind of halfway, more than halfway into this initial balance. So what I'm going to do here, I'm going to partial this to show me 2 charts. And then this one, since I'm focusing on copper, I am going to go into a micro copper. And I'm going to fall down to, let's say, a 5-minute chart. So what I'm looking for here is to, this was the anchored VWAP from LME. So we're going to have another anchored VWAP today when LME starts. So what I'm looking for potential shorts to come in because we've popped the initial balance to the downside, right? But we didn't sustain below it. So for now, it's more kind of range-ish. I suppose I should put Asia high and low on here as well, even though the low might be a little bit useless. Because it's so far away, so it's not a relevant area. But Asia high, maybe. And I would argue that they already did the liquidity grab. So Tokyo ends at 6 a.m. They immediately went above it. So liquidity sweep done. Yesterday they didn't do that. This is what I was looking for. When I started the stream, I'm like, they didn't touch Asia high. Awesome. We're going to have a late liquidity sweep. Wrong day. And then the longs that I was looking for happened, but very, very late in the day. So today I've locked out my one of my XFAs. First to practice in the new environment to see whether... And actually, you know what? Let's go to 55 ticks first. And because right now this is not super crazy, right? So it's like, what, 114 ticks with the initial bounce size. And I want to see if we can get a committed move lower. And then what kind of a drop that is. And then I'm going to base my stops on that. So anytime you see some market conditions changing, you can't just go plowing into real accounts that matter. This is why combines are very useful. And just like a musician does rehearsals and then more rehearsals, just because you are a good musician and highly skilled musician, and trust me, I know because I am one of them, it's not like you stop practicing. You're not always going to be like playing arenas, clubs and everything. You will continue to get gigs, but you still have to practice at home without, pressure of the stage and not making mistakes and everything. So whenever the craziness happens, first thing that I do is not, I want to trade this in the XFA or the live account if I happen to be in the live at the time. No, to me it's like, all right, let's go into a combine and see how this feels now. And then I will make some changes, maybe blow a couple of combines, just kind of seeing if I can run the same size, which is usually a no in increased volatility times. But that tells you data, right? It's like, okay, don't trade a full mini here because it's not working. And then you can adjust, you can adapt, and then you can apply that adaptation with lower size, bigger stops, new targets, maybe extended targets. Maybe you can find the trade on a medium-sized stop, but as a result, instead of going for 2 and 3R, maybe you can go for 4 and 5 because now you have that extra space. Am I making sense? Like in my head, I'm making perfect sense, but I don't know. I'm just nerding out here over like stats and... AG Trader says, I use anti-gravity. I like it better than Cursor. Okay, I'll check that out. I haven't heard of anti-gravity. Claude is the best thing for writing code. Yeah, I have Opus, actually, 4.5. Claude, to me, has flawed logic to me. It was making mistakes such as... because I tried it, and it was like... For example, I was trying to get it to write an algorithm or just do like a back test. It's not even an algo. So I'm like, well, this is what I'm looking for. I'm looking for a extension above the initial balance, so I want you to give me the mean average and the median average, and then you know, the return to the initial balance. And then it gave me areas that were like popping out by 0.01% out of IB, and then returning to the initial balance edge. And I was like, what are you doing? And Opus 4.5 is very good. I hear the Gemini is good as well. Actually, one of my software developers, well, the CTO actually of Blotec, he started using it and he likes it better than Opus. So I want to try it, but I've got way too many things going on at the moment to learn new stuff. So yeah, for now I'm using Opus. What are taxes like supporting a damn Anglican monarch? Well, over here you have ways to sort of pay yourself the minimal salary and then pay the rest of the profits as dividends. Everybody does that. Whoever owns a business. I don't know anybody who will like pay themselves a large salary, because then that goes under personal income tax, which can go up to 50% in my tax bracket. And that's annoying, right? Even now, like I think the tax is still around 40%. So, you know, whatever I make across all of my ventures, it's like basically 50% of that goes to the tax person. So yeah, it's not great, but UK has many other benefits that I'm really quite happy about, and I'm okay with paying here to be here. Alright, so we're starting to get a little bit of a move down. It's not the best, but it's kind of a bearish harami, so let's try and pop in maybe 4 micros here, see how that feels. Alright, so 55 tick stop doesn't quite catch the IB high. Alright, let's close that and go to 76. As we spoke earlier. Okay, that's a little more palatable. Now, does this catch the round number? So we are over 630 and we're just above 633. So that's okay for a stop placement. And now this is 2R. Well, just over 2R. Let's try and extend that to a little bit more. And so that I don't have to mess around with calculations. So I hacked the fib tool here. Now, for those of you who have been on my streams on Market Stalker's channel, and I'm actually thinking of doing one today, don't know when, but I think it's time for a bit of a Q&A and you know, maybe a live trading sesh, but we'll see. I'll do that after the fast markets are over. Okay, so I can't edit labels, but basically your stop is 1R. So this would be 2R, 3R. Is that right? No, this would be 1R, 2R, 3R. So right now I have this at 2.5R at a very nice round number of 620. For now, it doesn't seem too crazy. It is London though, so we don't have LME, we don't have COMEX. Things may change, but for now it's pretty comfortable, right? It's not making me anxious. And what is this risk? The risk is 380, so absolutely fine. And yeah, it's comfortable. Yeah. Property tax. We don't have property taxes. That's one of the benefits here. So USA pays property taxes every year, which I believe is like 1% on all the land and objects you own. We have nothing of the like. So you have a house, you can build generational wealth if you've got family, because they have a house. If it's mortgage free, they just have a house. So they never have to pay anything apart from bills on that house. Huge benefit. Huge benefit. This house now is a pretty sort of spacious single-story 4-bedroom place with a big garden outside. And we paid one amount of money for it, and that's all that we're gonna pay. So pretty nifty. There is council tax, that's minor. Council tax goes by somewhat the size of the property, yes, but also the number of people that live in there. And in my house, there's only 2 of us here, so humans, obviously. I actually got called by a guy who was working for the Office of National Statistics, and I actually ended up having a massive sort of 2-hour chat with him. He was so funny, and he was like, how many people are in your home? And I said, well, humans, only 2 of us, but there are 8 dogs. Oh, yeah, well, you know. I said, do they count? And he said, well, you know, they can't really speak English. And I said, well, my Bernard, you know, one of them uses fluent pet buttons. And he was like, really? Oh my God. So maybe we should include at least Bernard. So that was a very, very funny conversation. No entry in silver between 1165 and 1185. I mean, what's there? It's not initial balance. You need to wait until the so-called other time frame participants arrive to the party. Not just assume that they're going to pop IB one side or the other. Only once the initial balance is popped, you get the idea of what they're trying to do. The only time I do early setups is if we have value acceptance, or if we have a 15-minute touch of the value area, and then the next 15 minutes turns around and gives you like a bullish engulfing or something. In an uptrending market, that's what you're looking for. If you see bearish engulfings, those are a little bit more difficult because actually they can be just pivotal shakeouts and take profit moves and then get run over. So again, context matters. It's not just bearish engulfing, I'll go in. On most occasions in heavily bullish markets, bearish engulfings, especially at the daily chart, they're a very good entry for longs overnight because they will get run over. Very rarely are they a cause or another sell-off, right? So if we look at the daily chart on copper, and if we find the time when it was trending, so here's a bearish engulfing. Not terribly strong because it's just barely closing below the low of the previous candle. What happens next? Well, they take it higher. So if you were looking for shorts at the open, you get your face smacked, and it never really makes any traction to the downside before it carries on up. It takes days because it was reaccumulation. And then, okay, this is one where it's a bit tricky, but it also wouldn't have worked the next day, right? So they opened, went down, then up, and ended up as a doji. Here's another one, big bearish engulfing. So you're thinking, oh, is it over? Is it over for copper? Now they open up with a gap, they retrace the entire candle. So that is the behavior of bearish engulfings in bullish markets. Don't get caught up in bearish engulfings as like, oh, we found a top. We didn't find a top. Some people just took profits. So look at it as a beginning of the distribution, maybe a bit of a range, them taking a breather. Who's they? The wizards? Institutions, of course. All right, so a little bit of a wick to the downside, but how long do we have until the next 30-minute candle close? We've got 2 minutes. Okay. Okay. AG Trader, wow, no property tax every year. Yeah, I know. We have property taxes in Serbia. So every year you have to pay amount of money. And again, it's not trivial because the more land you have, the more tax you have to pay. So it's terrible. But in the UK, you can have like this crazy, place in like Kensington or somewhere. Because flats and like apartments in really affluent areas, they are small. So you can have like a 2-bedroom apartment in like Knightsbridge or Kensington and it's going to be like £2 million market price. And it just keeps going up. Like it just keeps going up. London properties are crazy. Over where we're at now, houses are still very expensive because it is an affluent area as well. Just a little less crazy. So, you can just about find a pretty spacious house for $1 million. But, if you had to pay property taxes on the sizes of the houses that we have in this area, that'd be crazy. It just wouldn't be worth it. It wouldn't make much sense with the property prices just going up, up, and up. So yeah, I'm very happy that I don't have to pay property taxes. All right, so far, it's not feeling uncomfortable. So it's gone into a bit of a drawdown. But I'm not feeling like anxious. I'm not feeling like, oh my God, like silver does to me. So this is okay. This is all right. And then we'll see how they behave here. And if they reverse it yet again, there will be an opportunity to scale in. If I'm still in. But for now, we're just in a basic position. No adding, no nothing. We're just waiting. And committing to the risk of the first trade idea that because they pop the downside at some point, they're going to try and go a little lower. This is too high up for me to buy. I would probably need to see this firmly above Asia high, and then maybe a retest of Asia high in order to go towards the next pain point, which is 640 and 650. So let me just actually put those down as well. Now 640 is a weaker moderate. And then the big boy, if we go into another mad run higher, this should be the area where they hedge. Now, they might do what they did here, where they ran over it, but then established a range. So gamma pinning is happening at the previously very large mega core wall. That is still large, so now you have this push-pull happening between the dealers trying to figure out who's going to win. And the retail and the dealers are fighting. The retailers are like, oh my God, high on hopium, let's go up. And the dealers are going, no, we're going to hedge here. Let's just chill, man. That's how I imagine dealers versus retail in my head. It's fun in my head sometimes. Right, what do I want? Mega Cobalt. Mega Cobalt. Like I said, ADR is not relevant today because there's nothing. Maybe we can project like the resistance 1, 2, and 3 is, or maybe like distribution curves or something. I haven't done that calculation, so I'm gonna wait. Deeyana, do you know when Topstep is going to support API trading for live? I don't know, man. So listen, I lost 2 months of creating an API, and at the time I had a live account, and I was like, okay, well, once I've tested in Combines, it will be absolutely fine, right? And the reason why I'm not doing that anymore is because only SIM accounts are supported. I don't know. I really don't know. With some of the platform issues that they've had recently, they have other problems to solve before they go towards the API focus again. But I don't know. It was a big disappointment because I was like, oh great, I can run the Asia setups and I can sleep. No, no. Yeah, and then I actually reached out to Coach Roberts and I was like, is the API enabled for live? Because they kept getting the message, right, the raw message from the API saying, this API key is not supported for this type of an account. And I'm like, what? So I asked him and he said, well, as far as I know, it's fine. And I'm like, no, it ain't. And then we kind of went through a couple of issues that it could be. And it turned out that no, because I actually got in touch with the Project X and I said, I'm in a live account. Can you tell me whether this API key works for live? And they're like, no, at the moment it's not supported. And I was like, well, great. I just lost 2 months of my life. And that's why I stopped that. That's why you don't see me mentioning code or anything. Now I'm back to the XFA stage, but you know, the way things are, as soon as I get any kind of consistency, I usually end up in a live account within about a month or 2, which is annoying because I always want to build more balance. But they just go, oh yeah, you've had 20 days of profits. 20 grand that you've left in the accounts, that's getting pushed into live now. And you don't get a say. You know, I wish there was like a cutoff point so that you know how to plan things out. Like, for example, if you reach the cap of 150k profits across all your XFAs, that would be like the time that they push you into live. And this way, you never know when it's coming. And you're almost like sort of blindsided by the email going, you're moving to live. And you're like, but there's only 20 grand in there. It's not enough for silver. What do I do? And yeah, so I wish that process of cutoff point to live is more consistent in the amount of accounts that they push people in. So, you know, obviously if you're a micro trader, you're probably going to be in a 50k account. Probably, I'm guessing. So maybe that can be like, you know, without 50k, you're not getting moved to live. That's at least how I would do it. And this way it's just all like up in the air. It's like, oh yeah, this person has 2 grand. Let's push him into live. It's like, well, he's got 2 grand left because he's done a lot of payouts. So, but you know, whatever is left in there. So maybe if you kind of hit the payout cap of 50k, whatever the largest size of your XFA is, that would be the time. Or maybe halfway to that. I don't know. Maybe, you know, if you're 50k, then 25k gets you live. If you're 150, 75k gets you live. That could be maybe a workaround. But again, they're not going to consult me because I'm not risk for this company. When is Project X going to have multiple bracket orders? I don't know, man. I don't know. I know as much as you. You know, I'm not an employee. I'm just a contractor. So I'm not privy to some of the conversations they have. I know that we are all very visible as, like, you know, on-air personalities, but there's very limited info. Like, I can tell you a lot about the VIP program, you know, and I can tell you a lot about a whole bunch of stuff when it relates to TV stuff and coaching and everything, but I don't really know anything about what's being run in the background and, you know, what sort of projects they have. What is the timeline for some deliverables? I don't know any of that. I wish I could help, but I don't. Is live worth it? Oh, absolutely. Daily payouts are bloody awesome. So daily payouts by far are, I think, the biggest benefit of the live account. And then, you know, you have the risk team, which they're good, but I'll be honest, in the past, they've been a little bit micromanaging. But they are helpful. You know, if you get stuck, you can actually call, like I used to call up Mick and just cry on his shoulder when crude oil dried up on me. And I would be like, but Mick, crude oil is not moving anymore. And he would be like, I know, I've seen it. Yeah, it's not great. I don't know what's going on. And I was like, I don't either. I want it to move. And poor Mick was like, yeah, okay, Dee. Yeah, great. But, you know, they would be also constructive. You know, they'd be like, well, have you maybe tried this? Or how about if you maybe try moving to something else? But I'm like, but to what? But to what do I move to? And then somebody actually suggested RBOB, and that was like a turning point for me. I'm like, oh yeah, God, thank God I've got 400 ticks on the day of movement. because crude oil went dead. And at the time of the day when we were like doing fast markets, it would get stuck in a 35 tick range. I can't trade that. Like, I really can't. I'm not that kind of a trader. I need movement to a degree. So I need like the sweet spot between super high volatility and super low volatility. So I want median movement that just enables you to still capture 70 to 100 ticks comparative to, like, let's say 200 to 300 tick range on the day as an average. That's where like my comfort zone is, right? And it's not about, oh yeah, you know, it's what you're comfortable in. No, it's when I make the most cash. So whenever we get outside of that, it's almost like a distribution curve. So you have the median of 200 to 300 ticks average per day, where D is actually smashing it, and I can do, you know, very nice risk management. My hold times are awesome. You know, my hold times are in like 100 minutes. So it's not like I'm scalping. I do scalp some days. Look, if it's really range bound, I will scalp it up. I don't like doing it because at this age it subs my mental capital too much. But if there's nothing else available, yeah, you're gonna do a scalp. It's fine. And on those days, typically I will do 10 to 15 trades, like actual setups, not on the same product. But you know, let's say I would scalp a little bit on gold, I would scalp a little bit on natural gas. I would scalp maybe copper, you know, if we're still in a time of day when LME is open. But generally, if there's a swing opportunity, I'm not scalping. You know, I'm trying to get the swing because I can see that there's a potential there. Just like looming, hanging. Like yesterday, I knew that something was going to happen to copper. And I was thinking that because they rejected 6 evens, that they're actually going to run it all the way down. As it turned out, overnight, they just smacked it up to high heavens. But 625 was still reached, right? That was an area that I had to the upside. Shame that I slept through all of it. Because I woke up today and I looked at my Twitter, or X, whatever you call it now, and I saw Jay's Twitter. He was like, oh, is it copper turns now? And I'm like, no! What? So I looked at the charts and I was like, damn it! Have you heard of Rocket Scooter, also a host for MMF? He made an algo that sounds similar to yours using gamma options, etc. for Ninja. Honestly, it's beyond my comprehension. I haven't. No, it's not like us algorithmic traders, you know, have a symposium. You know, it's like, hey, what are you working on? We're all pretty, like when it comes to an actual working algo, it's so difficult to do. This is why I'm against signal services, because they don't work. There's no single algo that you can just run year round and not maintain and not slightly modify and stuff. That will be constantly profitable through all market conditions, through everything. So you have to have a human factor that is deciding whether to switch an algo on or off. And I have, at this point, the ones that are like pretty active, I would say I've got about 7 of them. And depending on the type of a day, the market conditions, I will decide whether to switch it on or off. But, you know, it's not like the algo traders who have profitable, you know, algorithmic systems. We don't just have meetings and go, hey, so, yeah, I found another one. It's performing really well on another sample test. It's just, everybody's like quite secretive, you know, you're holding on to it because it's worth a lot of cash to you. And I know that I'll never sell my algos to retail because it's just not worth it for me. We do have a couple of algos that are almost permanently licensed by institutions. And one of them is the ADR indicator, ADR algo. But again, there are finer points there. When you turn it on, what time, and you know which products, and what are the exact parameters. That's secret, right? So I will never tell people that. And you know, whenever you get the algorithm licensed, that's 40 grand in pounds per month. So that's the going rate, right? So it's not like, oh yeah, you know, I'm gonna sell it to you for, you know, 1,000. No, I'll sell you a course, that talks about the concept and how I do it, but I'm not going to sell you my algo. I'm sorry, but you know, it's just something that it's not a retail product, right? Let's just face it. I know many retail traders would love to get a hold of the institutional algos, but no go. No FOMO D, so if you're awake, you would have done well in it. So let's analyze it. So my hypothesis, which I've spoken about, is that in the beginning, just before 1 a.m. my time, which is, again, let me do the bloody time zones. I really need to remember these because it's getting ridiculous. So time zones. So my 1 a.m., that will be 8 p.m. New York time, right? It's an hour after Tokyo opens. There's usually a shakeout in the opposite direction. So I've spoken about that many times. I teach it to people. Shakeout in the opposite direction, looking for sweep. That is usually the wrong direction. And then they do the right move and they turn it around and then it runs. Let's see what happened. Oops. Didn't mean to move the mega call wall. I'm going to lock this down so that doesn't happen again. 59.60. Good enough. All right, let's look at some timings here. First, let's find Globex open. There it is. They open right under the call wall. That's bothering me. Right under the call wall. Run it up by about 0.5% of the overall move. How do I know? There you go. 0.55%. Just visually, it just looked that way. Okay. So by my hypothesis, that should be the wrong move. And then you wait for a sweep. So which one of these looked most as a sweep and which one happened? Which one happened pretty quickly? Let's have a look at the Tokyo Open. So here's Tokyo Open. They start to lose speed here. What's this time? Oh, it's 1 a.m. What happened? Smash! And then they're like, don't know what happened. And then they go into a bit of a range. And then late after 2 a.m. Now remember that my hypothesis is also that we establish either a low or the high for the Asia session between usually 2 and 3, maybe 4 a.m. But generally it's like median average is around 3 a.m. So this one happened a little earlier, right? So they did the smash, didn't really make a massive run immediately, but the low was in after the sweep. That was it. That was your Asia low. What happened after? They started running. What time? About 2:30. So this is like Shanghai trading. The first hour is done. And then the other time frame participants start to take this into sustained auction. And actually when I'm trading the metals, I will actually change my initial balance to start at 1:30 over the Tokyo. So I will anchor it to the start of the Shanghai. Because I don't want this. Like I don't care much about this. Sometimes you can get a trending move that keeps running and then runs until about 3 a.m. my time. And then it kind of establishes it. But a lot of the days, the 1 a.m. sweep is the one in the wrong direction that is not going to hold into the new lower low and another trend and whatever. And then they reverse it. So those are like kind of loose timings and assumptions of what should happen. Did it follow the pattern? Almost perfectly with a little bit of wiggling. Obviously it was FOMC day, so I don't know what they were doing. But yeah, they started running after 2 a.m. and did not stop, man. They did not stop. 3 a.m. though, interestingly, there was a reversal. This would have been tough. So I don't think I would have held this past that. Even though I know that the hammers have a very high rate of failure intraday, this would be very uncomfortable because I'm guessing this is a massive candle. Yeah, I mean, that's 105 ticks drawdown. So I would probably be out at like 6:12. And then what time do they stop? Let's find the end of Tokyo, which is 6 a.m. Here it is. Oh, they run it more. Past the Asia high, then the liquidity sweep. So yeah, even though it looks crazy, this is actually a pretty normal behavior for copper. Everything is happening on schedule, let's say. I'm huge on the time of day. That saves my ass so many times. And whenever I'm misbehaving, it's always because I'm not following the time of day rules and the assumptions that I have based on the statistical relevance for that time of day. But yeah, it was following the pattern perfectly. Oh, trading nickels. Yeah, no, I know. Yeah, I'm kind of joking. Like, I don't really care about missing one move. If this is the start of whatever happened to silver and gold, then this is just the beginning. And there'll be plenty of days like that. So maybe once we move my show to a little bit later, I will be able to stay awake until 3 a.m. and actually capture it. Because I tried doing it like in the beginning of January. It was amazing. Like, I was making between 2 and 4K. But then the lack of sleep just caught up with me, and I would be sleeping like 2-3 hours because I want to trade Asia, and then I would just be absolutely exhausted. And I already have problems with my energy because of the chronic illness, but I just couldn't push it anymore because I can get myself into a crash, and then I can't do anything. I wouldn't be able to do streaming, I wouldn't be able to do trading, nothing. Everything goes out the window, and Dee just rots in bed in a darkened room with an eye mask and noise-cancelling headphones, not showering for days because there's no strength. It's not worth it. It's not worth it for me, definitely. That was Bones. It's fun from Yugoslavia. Okay. Mike Belfiore. Yeah, Mike. Yeah, very well-known guy. A risk manager's true value isn't just shutting someone down. It's providing them accountability that keeps a poor trade from becoming career-ending trade. Yeah, in the old prop firms maybe. Online prop firms, like, remember that back in the day, even the bigger prop firms, they only maybe had 60 to 100 funded traders, and then on the smaller side, they had like 12 to 15 people. That would be it. We're talking massive online companies, right? So even on the funded level, there's thousands and thousands and thousands of traders. It's just not possible to micromanage in that respect. It's like, oh, somebody's in a bad trade. It's like, what are you doing? Now, when Topstep was smaller and when I was first funded with them, Mick actually started working after Hogue. And Mick was the one, we had this private messaging system. And with Hogue, I was always in contact with him, right? We were like chatting. And then Mick started working because Hogue took a little sabbatical around about that time. So Mick took over. And I entered my day range fill trade on crude oil. Suddenly I get a message. I see you're in a trade. What is happening? And I'm like, oh, Mick, it's just like the trade that I do like every day, But the volume is down. And I said, yeah, I'm only looking for 35 ticks. This is a scalp into the end of the day. Like, it's not some massive swing. Yeah, but so I was like, can you just let me trade? So I found that part slightly over management, and I don't like people doing that to me. But then over the years, he just stopped doing that, and he was like, okay, cool. And then if you had a bad day, you can cry on his shoulder, and he will be very helpful. He like genuinely helpful. He will tell you about the struggles he went through, what you can do to figure out why things happened. And it's always the why. Why did I do this? Why did you do that? And it's a mental trigger thing. So if you know about Jared Tendler, he actually has a beautiful sheet where he makes you do the mental and tactical analysis, rating your A game, B game, C game, and then having the exact triggers. I actually need to start doing that more because I feel like I've been a little undisciplined recently. Whether it's lack of sleep or whatever, I don't know, but I did, like, full transparency, I did blow through like a couple of XFAs in about like six combines, which is not normally what I do. So I need to figure out what's going on. So obviously I still have a couple of XFAs, but I kind of wanted to get more. I don't think that was a very good mindset for me, because I was like, oh, I want to get 5, you know, because I want to build up more. My whole thing was that I want to build up more balance before they push me into live again, almost like afraid of being pushed into live with less than like 75k. And then I just started doing stupid things. I'm like, oh yeah, I can pass it in 2 days, and I can, but it's just, I think I've been sizing up too much, and I just need to like chill out a little. So I need to start doing my own live streams as well, because I can do them at the time of day when my highest probability setups arrive, and that is either post NY cut or day range fill. So kind of around the time for group coaching at 6 p.m. That's a perfect time for me. So maybe on the days when I'm not on group coaching, I can do my stream. The only issue is, again, the energy levels, because last time when I tried to run one stream extra per week, my health just went down like within 10 days of me trying to do that. So I just did 2 streams, and I immediately found myself having to sleep through the day. Like the whole, you know, my road to recovery started to go backwards very quickly. And, you know, I'm still, like, I'm a lot better than I was even 18 months ago, even a year ago. You know, I am better, but I still have days where I have to use a wheelchair. It's ridiculous. Like, I try and get up, my legs are like so sore, and then I get dizzy and I just fall over. It's like, oh great, that's sexy. So yeah, I just have to figure out like where the limits of my abilities are at the moment, and it's never easy. All right, so we are in another quiet session. To me, to make a conclusion here, I don't think we are in like some mad bull run yet. I know that we had an outlier move, but so far this is actually looking pretty stable with a slightly increased ranges. Because, you know, if I had used the 45 tick stop, I would have been stopped out here. So this is a comfortable size, 76 ticks, 4 micros. Maybe I'll do like 2 micros because I am on a smaller account in the XFA right now. But yeah, so we'll see how COMEX behaves, because London completely range bound. This could be a reaccumulation. They could just start smacking it upside. But we're going to use the same approach for today and the fast markets appearance, where we're going to wait until initial balance of COMEX gets popped. Then we're going to look for a pullback. So I'm not going to be running any breakout trades. Those generally just don't work for me anyway. So we're going to try breakout of the initial balance, wait for a pullback, and then wait for the long signal, preferably around one of the bigger, you know, call wall levels, or any call wall, really, just using it as an orientation point. So yeah, we'll see how we get on. We'll see. But this is certainly an interesting change. If it continues, then we have copper running into like the crazy times. Just like the other 2 metals, well, 3 actually. Platinum is not talked about enough. I did used to trade platinum, but for the same reason that I'm putting silver on the, you know, on the shelf. Platinum is even crazier. Like platinum just moves. I think it was like 2,000 ticks or something. Yeah, so platinum at the moment has an average range that has held up like for months now at 1,894 ticks. An average, you know, what average we move 2,000 ticks? Well, let's 2,000 ticks between friends. That's a lot of size, right? And that means that even on like a 200 tick stop, you're going to be whipped out like that. Again, on the opposite side of the crazy, right? So I want maybe like I can handle up to about 600 ticks average range, maybe even 800, But anything outside of that, and we get to a non-tradable product for me. So just wanted to make that perfectly clear. Anyways, that is it for me today. So no big movement yet for London. And we have LME opening, so once we move this slot to closer to LME, we could capture this kind of a trade and then watch it actually play out. But for now, I have to finish the stream at this time of the day. I am having a chat with someone very soon, because apparently it's in the works. We just haven't actually implemented it. So I want to try and give it a push a little bit while the metals are still moving crazily, because we don't know how long this is going to last, right? So we could find ourselves in, March, April, and everything just goes dead. It's just the nature of the market. So we want to take advantage of some of these whilst they are happening to a degree, right? If something goes super crazy, you don't want to be blowing up, about 50 combines per month or per week. Some people do as well. Like I know that some people are blowing up like 100, 200 combines in a month. Like that's insane. I get to about 20, 30, and I'm like, ooh, Dee, okay, you need to stop here. What's going on? Alright, so we're getting some movement here. Let's see how it finishes into the end of the hour. Trade Nichols says, it takes me a lot of energy to run lives, but then I also did that mostly on my own. Set up content design, the back end. Yeah, I mean, I run my own YouTube as well. I tried hiring 2 people. Didn't like the how it looked at all. Like, I just don't think they either made me look like some sort of a furu thing. It's like, yes, look at how much money I make. It's like, that's not, like, let's just not do that, because it annoys the hell out of me when I see YouTube channels like that. Say, oh, I made $500,000 doing this. It's like, no, why don't we talk about the problems, not how much money you've made? Because it's like, it's good, it's clickbait, but I focus on the value. And then I focus on the value with a bit of humor in it. So I hired another person, this was years ago, and they made me look like a cartoon character. So, I talk with my hands a lot, and they started putting like different objects into my hands, and I'm like, that's just, you're mocking me. You're not using satire about the industry and the struggles of traders. You're mocking me. Like, what are you doing, man? So, and then I had a few editors here and there. One of them made it so boring that there was no cuts, nothing for like a minute, and then he would make a cut. And I'm like, no. And the other one made it too quick. It was like strobe lights or something. So extremes of, the editing styles. So I'm like, you know what? I'm gonna take over. So I run everything. I do thumbnail designs that have worked for me in the past. So I don't think I'm too bad at it. Considering that, I get a fair amount of views, even though my Marcus Talker channel is not super big, it's still got, enough people on there. And yeah, all the editing, like that's why it takes me so long to create long form videos, especially the ones that are more vloggy. Like if they're just like this, it's a little easier, but you still need to edit, the bits and pieces, because you can't run a 90-minute, like you can run a 90-minute live show, but you can't release this as a long form video. Nobody's going to watch that. They're going to sign off after like 30 seconds or so. But whenever I'm making a longer form, it needs to fit in the span of 6 to 15 minutes. It's not like long form, it's just longer video, but it's still short. So I need to provide the information, I need to remember everything, and of course I've got a teleprompter for that. It's on this camera actually. And that's the way to remember the audience interactions, because I'm terrible at that. So click like, click subscribe, don't forget. I always forget that, always. And I always feel so awkward doing it as well. It's like, yeah, click like. Andre does it in a perfect way. It's like, yeah, let's go, click like, click subscribe, and push the notifications button. And I'm always like, okay, yeah. Press the like button. Yeah, press it. Yeah, please. I don't know. I just don't like begging for things. It sounds like begging. It's horrible. But it's like, please, can you like? So I used to joke about it when just before I got ill and stuff. I still had, crazy amounts of energy. I could work for 18 hours, no sleep, nothing. Who needs sleep? And I used to have this audience interaction where, click the subscribe and the push notifications if you want to get notified anytime I make a new video. And then when I do make a new video, I'm going to pop up in your bedroom, your kitchen, your oven, your man cave. So that sort of made it better for me. I use humor to mask my social awkwardness a lot. And I know that I seem like a super functional person, but I'm inside. I always feel a little awkward if I don't know people in the room. A little awkward. I can navigate it pretty well because I was a musician who did like interviews and stuff for a long time. Do I like it? Would I choose to be in that situation? No. But can I run a conversation? Can I, I usually just ask questions of other people and then I listen. Obviously, when I'm doing this, it's just me, so I have to keep talking. But usually I would just ask a question, and people love talking about themselves, and they just go off on one. And then I listen, and then I find out things, and then we become friends. Yeah. J.D. Nichols says, yes, I've watched a few of your channel videos, very well edited. Thank you. I'm a layman when it comes to that, but, I've been in the entertainment world long enough to know what I should be doing. Yeah, I'm trying to ramp up the entertainment, which honestly isn't a bad way to get people focused in on. Yeah, humor has been very successful for me. Just adding bits and pieces, and finding footage and memes, man, that takes forever. And I love that part of editing because it makes me laugh. And every time I find something, as I'm like editing it, I'm laughing my head off, and it's great. But whenever I have to like stare at my face and actually edit it, and I'm like, oh God, I need Botox. Yeah, market stalker D. That's why she talks about being a market stalker all the time. Makes it easier to remember. That's right. Market stalkers, but the handle is actually market stalker D. It used to be market stalker D in the chat here as well until YouTube decided to just put everybody's usernames, which are very random. Some people have like, 2012 00050, and then some random word. It's like, no, like we liked the handles, YouTube. So now, instead of being market stalker D, which is why I changed the handle on my channel, now I'm Market Stalkers again, which is the basic username on the channel. It's like, why? Why, YouTube? Why change things that do not need changing? I do not know. J.D. Nichols, I tried to laugh for a whole video to do copy flattery of another YouTuber. I overdid it, but I sure posted a lot of memes. There was a night on my automotive repair channel, D. Nichols. Yeah, I might check that out actually, dude. Yeah. Thank you, Deeyana. Yesterday your trade on M&G was successful. Yes, and I did another one later on in the day that was also successful. It was smaller. I think I grabbed about 40 ticks out of it. But yeah. Look for the laughing monkey. I'm pretty sure I included it. Okay, yeah, I'll look. I'll have a look. Thanks. Alright guys, let's finish it up here. Like I said, I have a problem finishing the streams recently. I will see you a bit later. I will be on fast markets, so I'll check in with you then. I'm gonna keep this going just to do like a test of how much drop we get or how quick I get taken out. So all of that is data at this point. That's what I'm going to combine. So we're just going to testing out new market conditions, and we'll see if we can get a valid setup at a better time of the day. That's all I've got for you. Thank you so much for sharing your time with me. I really appreciate it. I'm Market Stalker D. This was the Euro Trade on TopstepTV. I will see you later. Take care.